Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and today my guest is Jennie Potter. Jennie is the author of Self Sabotage No More and the creator of the Alarm Method, a 5-step process designed to help people remove triggering emotions that lead to poor decisions around love, family, money, and health. And today we'll explore how her method can be especially beneficial for veterans dealing with emotional triggers and how they can apply these steps in their daily lives. So before we get into it, welcome to the show, Jennie. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you bet. So let's, I guess, dive right into it. I mentioned the alarm method kind of in the intro. Can you start by maybe explaining kind of the background of this alarm method and what it is and kind of how it helps people to overcome these emotional triggers?
Yeah, so I kind of created the alarm method because I was coaching a lot of people, working with a lot of people around finances, health, um, specific goals. And what we were noticing was that there was this kind of common theme, I want to say with everybody, but specifically with my clients, where they would be sabotaging so they would know what to do, but they wouldn't be doing the thing that they knew to do. So I always give the simple example of, you know, that when you go for a walk, you feel better, and yet you don't put on your shoes and go for a walk. Why? Right? If
Right.
you know you're going to feel good, if you know you feel better in general, if you know your day is better, why wouldn't you? Or, you know, if you hit the snooze button, the day's going to start a little rougher, but you still hit the snooze button. So I got a little bit of like passionate / obsessed with, why do people do what they do? Like, why do people do things that are bad for them that they know don't make them feel good? And then why do people not do the things that they know make them feel good? So that sort of started the journey. And I discovered a few variables, Scott, but one of the variables was unprocessed emotion. So what that means is emotion from trauma, from something that occurred, whether it was like on duty or like, you know, whether it was as a child, something that occurred maybe in an accident. It doesn't have to be a major trauma either. It could be like your brother broke the lamp and blamed you, and your parents believed your brother, okay? And you experienced this disbelief and hurt and this, you know, no one ever believed me. And then you hold on to that for the rest of your life. And so, uh, so anyways, I started to explore this concept of trapped emotions or unprocessed emotion. And what I discovered was that when we can identify the old emotion or the old memory, um, and it doesn't have to be traumatic or emotional or uncomfortable, but when we can identify it, we can then release it. And so there's several methods to do that. But the most simple one, I wanted one that I could just teach anyone on the fly, that we could talk about and, you know, share with your audience, that I could share in my book, that basically anyone could learn quickly and use immediately to identify maybe some of the unprocessed emotions that are affecting you in your day to day, whether it's because you're procrastinating, or maybe you're always short with your mom, or maybe you feel guilty all the time, but you don't know why. So yeah, it applies to all emotion, and it impacts our health, our finances, and our careers and our goals, or choices. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think based on what you're describing, it sounds like stuff that can affect, all aspects of our lives. And, you talked about career and finances, but like relationships, not just, maybe intimate relationships, but also interpersonal, like friendships and neighbors and coworkers and all these other types of relationships as well. And how you treat people at the grocery store or, things like that. Like just in general, it seems like it would probably kind of fit in that way with all aspects of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It does touch every area of our life.
And a lot of
Yeah.
times that I know we on this show, we typically focus on veterans, but this, like you said, this could apply to just about anyone. But as far as veterans go, we do have struggles with intense emotions and PTSD related things where there were these intense traumas, and so um, you know what you're talking about is something as a way to kind of help manage these triggers that come up from time to time, or in some cases they happen all the time. It may seem like, but how do you see that this method kind of can it tackle those intense emotions as well, or is this something kind of more on a like a everyday thing? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, the scale, I mean, ideally, um, you are aware, and if you're listening right now, you're aware of a behavior or habit or thing that you do or a response that you have that may feels a little bit out of place or doesn't serve you. And I give my poor daughter, she has, she has tattoos, and, it was kind of a thing. She got them before she was allowed, and then it became this kind of thing with us. And I remember when I was first doing this work and I was releasing these emotions, I was identifying them and releasing them. And again, we'll walk through that process for everyone to be able to do. But I was releasing stuff, and my daughter came in and she had a new tattoo, and it was on her neck, and it was, like, right across her neck, right? And it said "blessed," which, could have been worse, could have been, like, a barking dog or something or whatever, but, she's, like, young and, making decisions that we felt like, you might change your mind in a year or a day or 2 months or
Right.
whatever, right? So, but she got this tattoo, and normally, I'm just gonna say, like, be vulnerable here. As a parent, that would have really upset me. Like, really, I would have been 0 to 10 mad. "How could you do that? What if you don't want that on your neck next year?" Or whatever. Like, I don't mind tattoos. I love tattoos, and she is gorgeous and rocks all of her tattoos. But it was more at the time this sort of thing that we had going on, and she was younger. And so um, I had just been releasing my emotions and stuff around my parents and how I was parented and what I was allowed to do and not allowed to do. And she came in and I just said, "Oh my gosh, you got a new tattoo." And she said, "Yeah, do you like it?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't love the location, but it's your body, your life." And she was shocked, but I was way more shocked. Like, I was really well, and I just give this example because sometimes we react to people, things that they do, something someone says to us at the grocery store, or someone bumps into us, or a friend says something and we think about it for a long time. There's a reason why, and oftentimes the underlying cause of that response or reaction is a
Mhm.
unprocessed emotion. So and we can address that type of thing. And then of course there is like PTSD where people are responding to a certain sound or noise because of a of past event. And either way, obviously I can't guarantee, but either way, this is a very simple way and a safe way to identify and kind of clear those the old stuff that's stuck.
Right, and it seems like, just from your example there with your daughter and your reaction to what, you know, she did, and I know as a parent myself, I mean, my kids are younger, so I'm not at that age where I'm worried about,
No.
tattoos or anything like that. Like, that's not on the radar quite yet, but, um, I know other things that they've done throughout the years, and I've had that 0 to 100 kinda, reaction, and that wasn't the best reaction looking back. I've kinda realized, and I've toned things down a little bit, and I've tried to figure it out, like, provide go 0 to 100 when they're about to get hit by a truck. Sure, I got that. But when they, break the lamp or they do something like, that doesn't need a 0 to 100 response. That's something, a little bit lower. That needs to be toned down a bit, and I recognize that, and so I worked on that, and I've throughout the years, I've gotten better at that type of thing, but, for there's other people who do struggle with that, right? You did mention, this is a kind of a multi-step approach. Can you walk us through each step of this method, the alarm method, and kind of talk about how people might be able to use these things as a way to handle a triggering situation.
Right. Yeah. So usually I'll use like procrastination or a behavior that someone doesn't like that they know
Mhm.
that they do. So it's, I don't want to say it's advanced, but like trying to stop yourself from going 0 to 100 when, you could think about. So the example I gave with my daughter, so you could think about an example where you got upset with your child and you wished you hadn't. Like, looking back, you were like, "Oh my gosh, I lost my temper so quickly." Or maybe when you're driving, you experience, what people call road rage or, that you get upset quickly. Um, and so, yep, if you're listening, just grab onto some type of example of behavior that you don't want to do anymore, or you don't like to do. And again, you can use something more gentle, like hitting the snooze button or I'm not going for that walk, or maybe every day you're like, I'm gonna eat healthy, and then you don't. So kind of notice what it feels like. Notice what it feels like when you make the decision to eat healthy or when you think about losing your temper. So the first thing is awareness. So the alarm method is an acronym. So A is for awareness. So the first thing is just being aware around your behavior, like how you're showing up. So I use procrastination. So if there's something you really need to do, like your taxes or, like fill out some paperwork or, make a phone call, if there's something that you really need to do, but you're not doing it, become aware, like, okay, I'm not doing this thing. What am I feeling? So, the very first step is just literally being aware, like, is it anger? Is it shame? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? What's the emotion that you're experiencing? The next step is to locate locate where in your body you're feeling that. So some people get that right away, like,
Mhm.
oh, in my stomach. Like when I'm nervous, it's in my stomach, or when I'm mad, it's in my head. So just notice where in your physical body you're feeling that. That's actually kind of an important step. The reason why we know that we're emotional is because our body tells us. And so, we don't really think about it. We're angry, we're happy, we're sad, we're all the things, but we don't really think about how do I
Right.
know I'm happy? How do I know I'm sad? And just to go a little bit further down that rabbit hole, what an emotion is a vibration. So when you feel fear, like you said, 0 to 100 because there's a fast truck coming, um, what happens is your kidneys pulse fear and you react. Your body knows that vibration as fear, act fast, move now, and you grab your child and pull him onto the sidewalk. Well, that that pulse, that vibration, it lets us know fear, anger, sadness, happiness. So every emotion has a different vibration. And so, and each of our organs are in charge of different emotions, and it's all kind of cool. But the reason why is that when your body pulses that fear, it also then releases neurotransmitters and chemicals and
Mhm.
serotonin and, whatever that emotion, um, uh, whatever reaction your body responds in a certain way with chemicals and stuff. And when you get that chemical reaction, that's when you feel it. So you feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your chest, you feel it in your head. And not everybody feels emotion in the same place. So it's unique for
Okay.
you and that vibration. So A is awareness, L is location. And the next question, once you have that location, is asking the question. So A stands for ask, the second A stands for ask, and it's asking the question, when have I felt this before? And so now I just always tell people don't do this exercise while you're driving or
Mhm.
operating heavy machinery. Well, you will probably will not have a major emotional response. 9 times out of 10, you won't. But sometimes when you ask that question, you will have a memory or something that pops up that evokes an emotional response. So just I always just say, because I did do it once when I was driving and I had a big emotional response. And after that, I was like, oh, that was a good thing.
Sure.
Now I can warn people not to do the same, be careful, lover, even like, shouldn't have been driving. So just always, take a moment, take a time out, sit down if you can, if you're able, and just have the awareness, locate, and then ask the question, when have I felt this before? Now, your brain will actually find a past event. Well, it might be when you were little, it might be in high school, it might have been something 3 years ago that happened at work, might have been something a colleague said to you. Someone made fun of something or but you have this memory. Don't dismiss it when you have like a random thought of someone saying something weird to you or making a comment on Facebook or something. Just notice whatever that memory is, because usually the original or it's stacked. Sometimes there's more than one memory, but usually it's connected to that memory. The emotion you're experiencing now
Quick
is
quick
connected to
question
that
on
memory.
that. So when you're thinking of this memory, um, is it, um, is it thinking back to the maybe perhaps the original, uh, memory of the first time this happened, or another time that maybe something similar like this event? So just using, for example, like, going that 0 to 100, right? Where a normal reaction that would be a normal reaction if your kid's about to get hit by a car or something like that. But if your
Uh,
kid instead, uh, drew on the wall or something, and that was your reaction, but then, like, if that's what you're going back to think about, is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking back to an actual emergency where this would have been the appropriate reaction? Or I'm not, just to clarify.
Well, yeah. So just to be clear, let's say your kid drew on the wall and you
Yeah,
had a 0 to 100 response. Okay. You're in right now, you're like, whoa, I remember that time I got super upset. It felt out of character. Like didn't really feel like who I am. It almost felt like someone took me over and got mad. Like it's kind of weird when that stuff happens. Well, it's weird because it's usually something that has been unprocessed and living with you a long time. So when you think, "When have I felt this before?" around being upset around the drawing on the wall, "When have I felt this upset before?" You might go right all the way back to when you broke a toy and you were a kid and you were spanked
sure.
and, or whatever, like, I know not everyone was spanked, I was spanked, but, when you were a kid and you were punished, or, you might have a memory of, something else that, we're talking about drawing on the wall. So you might have a memory of going to a job interview and not getting the job and being like, well, that's interesting. But you really
Okay.
felt like you were supposed to get the job. Or you might have a memory. So it could be very random and not theme related. But the goal is to identify when we have a strong reaction to something, 9 times out of 10, unless it's like you need to grab your child off the sidewalk, right, to pull them to safety. If you're having a response that doesn't feel normal or it doesn't like it feels a little out of place or intense, that's where there's usually an old occurrence, big or small, that has
Got it.
impacted us and we haven't dealt with it.
Yep, that makes
And
sense.
so
Okay.
that's rising up again. So it's awareness, location, ask the question. Now, some of you might not have a memory, and that's okay. We don't have to force it. You don't have to try. Spend a couple minutes with it. Like, when have I felt this way before? Usually something will pop up. A lot of times people want to dismiss
Mm,
what pops up. Like, oh, it couldn't be that. Oh, I dealt with that. Oh, that's weird. Why would I think about,
right.
high school or whatever? But really, if it is that event. And then when you do remember the event, just note it. Like, just, okay, interesting. That time when I broke that toy. And then we go to the next step, which is release. And the release, that's the R and alarm. And the release is really just we want to be present to how we're feeling and then relax that area of the body So if you're feeling that in your tummy, if you're feeling that in your chest, you're actually physically going to relax that area of your body. And then you can breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth 5 to 10 times, just very relaxed manner. Um, and as you do that, if you like, and the step that some people might call woo woo, but it's like there's so many reasons why this works. Part of it is the word almost like a habit. Once you get into the habit of doing it, your body knows, oh, this is how we release emotions. And so you can literally go shoulder to wrist, shoulder to wrist, shoulder to wrist. I call it unpacking. And you can clear out with intention whatever that feeling was. So if we go back to the child drawing on the wall example, you're cool. You're like, ah, I'm so mad. And then you take a time out and you think, okay, I'm really mad. When have I felt this way? Where am I feeling it in my body? I'm feeling it in my stomach. When have I felt this way before? Oh, when I broke that toy when I was a kid. That's so weird. Okay, I'm going to breathe into that area. I'm going to relax my stomach. I'm going to allow this emotion. And then I'm going to clear it. And I'm just going to unpack it. I'm going to unpack anger, unpack anger, unpack anger. And so that's kind of your process. So even though we've been talking about it for a long, we've been taking lots of time to talk about it, the actual process can be quite quick and simple. If you're at a dinner table and someone says something that triggers you, like you could do the shoulder to wrist, shoulder to wrist, shoulder to wrist, and probably no one would notice, or they might think you're a little cold or something. But you can do it quietly. Um, and that will help move out, uh, in essence, the vibration. So explaining what an emotion is earlier, it's almost like that vibration. The vibration's supposed to rise up and out. Like we're supposed to welcome it, notice it, accept it. Like, okay, danger, anger, happiness, peace. And with positive emotions, we don't
Right.
resist them. We experience them and we allow them. But with negative emotions, we do resist. We don't want to feel sad. We don't want to feel angry. Don't want to feel guilty. We don't want to feel whatever the feeling is, anxious. And so we push it down. And most of us are taught as children to resist or push down emotion
Mhm.
or not express, especially men. But men in particular are, encouraged to not to repress those tears, to hold back their hurt, to not share their vulnerabilities in the emotion department.
Right.
So what happens is it all builds up. And so this is a safe, comfortable way for you to release your emotions um, and move forward. And you can do that in the moment emotions or thinking about past emotions as well. The last letter in alarm is M, and that's your mantra. And your mantra is really, what do you want to feel? We go back to the child drawing on the wall example. How do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel forgiving. I want to feel peaceful. And maybe what I want is for my child to say sorry and then for us to like fix the problem together,
Right.
right? Clean the wall together or whatever. Might be just an example. But the mantra is I'm at peace, I'm at peace, I'm at peace. And or whatever you want to speak out. And you can actually do the same unpacking movement, but I call it packing, and you're packing in. The intention is you're bringing in peace. And so you're bringing in peace, bringing in peace, bringing in peace. And so again, that physical movement, there's a few reasons why it works. But for the sake
Sure.
of this
No, and
show, we'll just say
that's
it
that's
works.
good because I think, through this show and other veterans that I've talked to, other just people in general that I've talked to who experienced some sort of trauma at one point or another, they they recognize that their reactions to a situation are not appropriate for whatever this new situation is. And a lot of times it's because of, like you said, this trauma that they haven't dealt with, these unresolved emotions and the experiences that they've gone through that they just haven't quite resolved yet. And they recognize and then oftentimes
Mhm.
feel guilty about their reactions to something like, going 0 to 100 when the kid is drawing on the wall. That's not a 0 to 100 moment, but 0 to 100 kept them safe at one point in time where, talking about maybe a service member who
Yeah.
was deployed overseas and everything's high intensity because everything tend to be a life and death experience. And if
Yeah.
things didn't go right, people made mistakes, people got hurt, people got killed. And so that type of reaction,
Mhm.
um, kind of became, like, almost like muscle memory where that's just how you respond to things that are not going 100% according to plan, and
Mhm.
when your kid's drawing on the wall, that's not according to plan, and so you go 0 to 100 because that's just what you did. That's the muscle memory that you develop, and so the way it sounds to me, the way you described it is you're retraining that muscle memory, and I know it's not muscles, I'm just using that as a kind of
Mhm.
analogy, right? Right.
Oh, it's
Yeah, so I
a
think
great
that
analogy.
is
Mhm.
what we need to focus on is developing the new reactions, to new different circumstances. They may be very similar circumstances to what maybe happened in combat in terms of maybe somebody who you were giving an instruction to didn't follow your instructions as kind of a high level thing. You could be instructing your child to clean up their room and they didn't do it, right? But it's not a life
Yeah.
and death situation if there's toys on the floor, that or their clothes are not in the laundry basket or, things along those lines. That that's not a life and death situation. So if you go 0 to 100
Yeah.
in that circumstance, that's an inappropriate reaction. So you have to relearn and retrain your brain and your body to react in a way that is appropriate. And figuring out how to do that. And this framework that you have, the way you kind of broke it down, uh, makes sense because you're slowing down, you're stopping, you're thinking about what is happening, where you're feeling it in your body, your body is reacting, and you're thinking back to the past, and you're trying to get get the get your brain back on track. So it's now like kind of more in the present moment so it can focus on what is actually happening here, right?
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. That was such a good description. And I would encourage people to practice
Mhm.
with smaller stuff like procrastinating and like being irritated when you're making dinner, like, or, you know, just practice like, what am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling it? When have I felt that before? Just kind of that practice because then in the moments when you are 0 to 100, you can stop and go, okay, whoa,
Yeah.
like dream response here, right? Extreme response. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Okay. And the other thing that's very helpful with emotion or extreme response is understanding that you are not your emotion. Now, everybody knows that, but our language is I am angry. I am sad. And not all countries in many other languages is
Mhm.
I feel anger. I feel sad. And so we can say that, but we've been trained to say I am. And so what it means is we actually identify.
Right.
So now we are the anger, right? And so, right? So if you're like super mad, you're like, oh, I'm mad. Well, now you're declaring that you're the anger, that you're angry, you're owning it. And so one thing that I like to do that I feel like adds some separation and a little bit of humor for me, but I have a weird sense of humor, but,
Okay.
is saying body is angry. Because as soon as you can say, because sometimes, especially again with men, not all men,
Sure.
not, like in some women, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But with a lot of they can, it's a very simple way to tell someone like body is angry. So like, if you have a relationship with if your wife, I mean, this really works for a female or a male. I use the example that one day I had like 16 calls in a row, Scott. It was a really busy day. And I just texted my husband and I was like, hey, babe, do you think you could just figure out dinner? Normally I do. But do you think just this time you could just have some kind of food waiting for me when I get off these calls? Because I'm really hungry. And I get off my call, I come out the door, my husband comes in the door, and right when he sees me, he remembers, oh, I was supposed to do food, right? And like I'm like so hungry and now hangry. And he says, are you angry with me? And I look at him and I say, body is angry.
Sure.
And then we both start laughing and then we figured out food. But it like separated because I wasn't mad, but I wasn't really mad at him. I was just mad because I was hungry and I kind of knew that there wouldn't be any food. And so if you can like separate
Mhm.
by kind of using something as simple as that phrase, when you eat that extra moment to um,
Yeah,
figure
and
out why you're
the way
feeling
you
what you're
said it too,
feeling,
right, when you
that can be
first said
helpful
it,
as well.
um, what popped in my head is it kinda sounded almost like a caveman talk, kinda like body angry, like that type of thing, right? And it kinda made me chuckle a little bit when you said it because, it was a to me, it was a funny way of saying it, but, um, in a way, I don't think that was your intention of saying it that way to, sound like a like that type of response, but and maybe it was, but in my thought
Yeah.
process is if somebody came to me the way you did to your husband, if my wife came to me and said, "Body's angry," I I would be like, "Okay, well, this is funny," and I would start laughing, which would make her start laughing, and now we kinda separated, that emotion, that angry emotion. Now we're laughing, now we're happy, now we have
Yeah.
there's still an unresolved issue. You still were hungry and you still wanted food, but we can laugh about it at this point, and I think that kinda replaces that negativity where otherwise someone might scream and yell and say things that maybe hurt the other person, things that you might not be able to take back and that type of thing. And at least you can laugh about it and then figure it out together as opposed to uh
Yeah.
spending time yelling and screaming and arguing about something that you could otherwise be figuring it out. Does that make sense? Is that kind of along the lines?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. That's the word
That's
I was like,
I like it because it diffuses. It also and it separates. So you
yeah.
become the observer of what's happening instead of being in it and owning it. So it does things that I could have said to him, yes, I am angry. I asked you to blah, blah, blah. And I kind of knew you wouldn't. I could have gone there. Or I could have said, yeah, I'm angry, but I'm not angry at you. But the, like, body is angry kind of, like, just diffuses it. So, I like it. It's a cool tool to use, especially with couples, and as a parent, right? Because especially if it takes you a minute to process, like, oftentimes that 0 to 100 spot is because, like, many of us, had difficult childhoods or experienced stuff, speaking to veterans, what they've gone through, what people have gone through and, uh, teachers, bosses, you know, um, that kind of stuff. Um, we respond
Sure.
to 0 to 100 because we've had experience in the past of having to, like you spoke to already. So if there's anything we can do to give us buffer from the response we're feeling
Mhm.
to the actual reaction,
Yeah,
the
so
thing
what are
that we
some of the
do,
the challenges that people might
that's
face
good.
when they're
Yeah.
trying to implement this method into their lives? And I can see like at least initially, before this becomes almost muscle memory type of thing where it's just as natural as doing anything that you do every day. Um, I could see remembering to do this could
Yeah.
be a challenge, but are there other challenges that people face when they're trying to do this, and how can they overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so remembering to do it definitely, in the moment. That's why, I sort of suggested the practicing of, like, other things that kind of like, oh, every time I decide I'm gonna go on a diet, I go and eat sugar, or like,
Right.
I wonder why, like, why do I eat that bucket of ice cream when I decide to lose weight or whatever? And like picking smaller things that aren't as big of a deal, to kind of play with. Or, if you have family coming over, family is often the source of triggers. So if you've got like a dinner coming up, being prepared, like, okay, I'm going to practice my alarm method at the table because, my sibling always said this, or my mom always said that, or whatever. So,
Right.
um, you kind of know the people and situations that trigger you. So having that little chat with yourself before, but also just, practicing. Another thing that comes up is some people struggle with the location piece, where they don't know where they feel an emotion. And so again, practicing that, because we wouldn't know we were feeling an emotion if we didn't feel it
Mhm.
somewhere. So how do we know?
Yeah,
That
and
one as well.
based on,
Those are
like,
the
that
most
location, when you
common.
when you first mentioned it, when you were going
Um,
through all the step-by-step kinda breakdown of this, um,
yeah,
I know, like, probably a couple years ago, I probably would have been like, "How do you tell where you're feeling an emotion?" Or, how do you sense that? But, since then, I've started doing some, meditations where I would, uh, you know, basically, it's a kind of a guided meditation where it's like, "Okay, well, feel, the breath coming into your lungs." And it's like, normally, when you breathe, you don't think about feeling breath coming into your lungs, but if you stop and you slow down and you think about that and block
right.
everything else out and focus on that, you'll actually feel, your chest rise, your lungs and
Yes.
are inflating, all that, and then you'll feel the breath go leave your body. You'll start to feel that, and you'll start to become more aware of things around your body, and you can do that with other parts of your body as well. You can feel your toes on the floor. You can feel, things that you just don't think about normally because it just are always there. You can start to think about it and you start to notice these things. And I think that might help, just again, muscle memory, doing it over and over again. You start to get better at this. The more you do something like this, the better off you'll be. So I think doing something like that might help to identify some of the location issue. And again, when you're first starting doing this, that's probably gonna be a difficult step. That's one of the ones I would have imagined would have probably been tough before you mentioned that.
So, I remember once so my background is in counseling, and when I was in counseling school, my, uh, we kind of identified that I had a lot of repressed anger. Now, this is way before the motion work and stuff that I'm doing now, but, um, my counselor or teacher at the time said, "Just allow it." And
Right.
I was like, "But how? Like, I don't want to." I didn't wanna feel anger, I didn't want to allow it, I didn't know how to allow it, so she was like, "Well, welcome it." I'm like, like, I just
Yeah.
it was like it seemed impossible or nebulous or, like, non-tangible to me, and what I like about the location piece of this exercise is that when you go to the relaxing, step, which really is releasing, relaxing, allowing, welcoming. It's all the breath. It's all you can
Mhm.
actually physically relax that area of your body and allow. So, I mean, most of us, the reason why we have unprocessed emotions, for the most part, is that we didn't
Yeah,
want to
and
feel them, then we push them
a
down,
a
or
lot of
we didn't have a
times,
safe space
thinking
to
about the
expose them.
military veterans, especially combat veterans who are, um, maybe dealing with something, some traumatic incident where maybe one of their buddies got injured or killed or something, and they were in the middle of a fight for their life at that time too. So they didn't have time to just stop and grieve and cry and be sad and that emotion, they had to kind of stuff that down somewhere deep down inside. And so they can continue doing what they needed to do. They had to go fight, and they had to keep their head clear so that nobody else got injured or killed or anything. And so they had to kind of stuff some of that stuff down. But at some point, you got to go back and find that. Where'd you pack that stuff and then bring it back out and deal with that, right? Is that kind of what you
So that's what I want to speak to
Yeah.
because there's a lot of fear around dealing with that old stuff, right? It can be scary. And oftentimes when I work with people, they're like, oh, I just don't know if I have the space to process everything. And it's kind of a fallacy or like a common mistruth um, that you have to experience the intensity or relive the moment to process an emotion. So I just want to speak to that because this method, once in a while, you're going to have like waterworks or, really notice like, whoa, 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 like that was a big one. Like I let that go. I didn't know. But uh, oftentimes it's as simple as relaxing and allowing it to just like steam from a pot, just like lifting a lid, steam from a pot, it's gone. And once it's gone, it's gone. So I'm glad that you brought that up because there is a lot of people don't deal with their old trauma and emotion because they're terrified to relive it. Like they just don't want to. Nobody wants to relive trauma, but I'm here to tell you, you don't have to relive it to process it. There's lots of different methods out
Right,
there,
and I
and
think
some
another thing
people
that might hold people back
do relive it to process it, but you don't
regarding
have
this
to.
is if uh, they might feel that if they do release and let go of this and allow this to the steam to escape, using your example there, that it might feel like they're forgetting the person
Yeah.
who maybe was injured or the event that happened, that they're going to allow themselves to forget about it, and they don't want to do that to that other person. They don't want to make them feel like their sacrifice was not remembered and honored and that type of stuff. So they in a way they kind of torture themselves to continue remembering this, and it's not helping them to move on. And
Yeah.
I and again, I understand how moving on might sound like something that they don't want to do. I don't want to move on from this traumatic experience because I want to honor this person and honor their memory and their life and all that. And so I don't want to just move on because that sounds like you're forgetting about it. But that's not what you're saying here, right?
I'm saying you can take the gold with you, you can take the memories with you, but just release
Sure.
uh the pain associated with. You can still carry those memories
Got
and that importance and those events with you, but you don't have to carry the charge. And because that charge is now impacting your current relationships and your current opportunities and your current endeavors. And so you can still take it with you. Um, if there's a special way to like honor that event, whatever it was, then create your own special event to do that. But you'll never forget. It's just that you
Right.
can
Yeah,
remember
and that's a good word, I think,
without
for
the
it too, because
charge is the
that
word that keeps
charge,
coming to mind.
that trigger, things along those lines, those are the things that I feel like are maybe holding you back, and that you need to do something to allow yourself to continue while still honoring and remembering kind of what took place. If that's the thing, like some people might be totally fine with like, I want to forget that this ever happened.
Mhm.
And if they can figure out a way to do that, then and if that's what they're looking for in their life and that's what helps them move on, then you know, more power to you. But other people, I do know they don't want
Yeah.
to let go. And some of that, again, to uh, even just looking behind you, the self sabotage no more on the wall that you have right there, right? And that's uh, the name of the book too. That feels like a bit of self-sabotage. Like you're holding yourself back for what? And that's a thing that you have to kinda look at. Like,
Yeah.
is it worth it to now live the rest of your life in a way that you're shackled and you're held down, by this traumatic event so you can't move on and go live a great life, the life that you deserve, the
Yeah.
life that you should have, which knowing, of all the people I've talked to on this show, military veterans who's ever lost anybody in combat or knows people who have died in combat, every single one of them has always been like, they would want us to go on and live a great and happy life so that um, their sacrifice is not in vain, right? So do that. Stop self-sabotaging yourself and, uh, you know, work on that stuff internally first, I think. You had mentioned, um, uh, work on some of those smaller things, but work on those things that
Yeah.
you don't have to wait for something else to happen to you, but you know that you do those things. You hit the snooze button, you don't go to the gym, you don't go out for a walk, you do those things. Work on those little things, and that's like a great way daily to practice this, so you start developing that muscle, if you will,
Mhm.
and then when those other things, those external things start happening, then you can start applying
Yeah.
that, but if you don't have that practice in place, it's not gonna be, you know, uh, you know, your nature to just do that. It's gonna take some time, to figure that out, I think, right? Yeah. So going forward, I know
Yeah,
there's probably going to be some
absolutely.
listeners out there who
Yeah.
want to find out
Mhm.
more information about your book, Self Sabotage No More. Tell us a little bit about the book, what they can expect from it if they grab a copy, where they can get it.
Yeah. So if you go to jenniepotter.com, which is JENNIEPOTTER.com, uh, there I have free resources in there.
Great,
There's also the alarm method, and you can click on a link that'll just take you to Amazon. Amazon is my book lives. So if you want to hop to Amazon and get a copy, the book is short and sweet. I wrote it to my goal was to impact as many people as possible with some really simple tools. I kind of start out and explain why we show up the way that we do, and then move into how we can shift that with some simple methods, not just emotions, but also like beliefs that we've created along the way and um, things like that. So it's really the feedback I get is that it's very easy to read and that there's very tangible and simple tools in there that will um, help you live a more clear life, a life where you feel more neutral and can get more clear on your goals and your
excellent,
mission and what it is, how you want to feel in the world and what you want to create in the world too. So that's
excellent, excellent,
yeah,
and I
that's
will have a link
self-sabotage no
to that in
more.
the
And
show
it
notes.
really
So the
was
website
written
again,
for everybody.
jenniepotter.com,
Good luck to it.
JENNIEPOTTER.com. Again, that link will be in the show notes, so you don't have to jot it down if you're driving or anything. Like, don't do that. Just click on the show notes when you get to wherever you're going, and you'll be able to grab a copy of the book there, find out more about the alarm method and all of that. So, before we wrap up the show, just real quick, I usually like to end the show with a little bit of humor, either telling a joke, watching a funny video of people doing stupid things. Some of the jokes I tell are pretty corny, but that's fine. If it gets someone to laugh, even if it's laughing at me, I'm willing to make a fool out of myself. So that's kind of the goal here. Just get everybody to laugh. Um, so here's the joke. So there's a tough old cowboy from Texas. He's counseling his granddaughter that if she wanted to live a long life, the secret was to sprinkle a pinch of gunpowder on her oatmeal every morning. And the granddaughter did this religiously until the age of 103 when she died. and she left behind 14 children, 30 grandchildren, 45 great-grandchildren, 25 great-great-grandchildren, and a 40-foot hole where the crematorium used to be. I don't think
Oh my
the tough
goodness.
old cowboy was considering the fact that she might be cremated as opposed to, buried, which would have been a whole lot safer for someone who has gunpowder in their bloodstream. So, um, anyways, thanks again for taking the time to join us, Jenny, and, I really do appreciate you sharing the alarm method and your book, Self Sabotage No More. Hopefully some folks out there will go out and grab a copy of it and, reach out to you to find out more information if they're needing some help and some guidance to, kinda help, along their journey of healing and stopping that self-sabotage. So thank you again.
Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.